Hi, Ben Salisbury here. What you're about to see is a recording of a webinar I did. It was actually a LinkedIn Live event, and you're going to see me walk through why and how to target the richest accounts in any market. This is a real roll-up-your-sleeves how-to video. So I hope you enjoy it. Leave any comments or questions you have in the comment section below, and be sure to check out Stimulator.com to learn more about these special techniques for selling more product. Thanks for watching. For now, I'll start right here. So my first question, and I'm happy to hear any comments you have, is the 80-20 rule real? I have done survey after survey after survey, and you'd be shocked how many people think this is nothing more than a clever marketing theory, or that it's true in a lot of instances, but not all of them. And the 80-20 rule is absolutely real. It's indisputable. And I'm going to prove it to you today. I've got some really great fun data to look at. But the 80-20 rule is real, which means you can leverage it to your advantage. You don't need to be in every account. You just need to be in the right accounts. So understanding how to find them is absolutely critical. And the good news is it's easier now to find them than ever before if you know what you're looking for. And that's a big part of what I want to do today. If you've never visited this website, I really encourage you to do it, even if you're not doing business in Texas, because the data is so fascinating. In the state of Texas, when an on-premise account, let me get rid of that little banner in the top right. There we go. On-premise accounts are required to pay taxes on their beer, spirits, and wine sales. These records are public records. It used to be really hard to get your hands on them. You literally had to drive to Austin and thumb through file drawers, which I have done in the early 90s. But now it's all online, accessible to anyone using this link. So I'm going to use this data today to prove to you that the 80-20 rule is real. I wish I could spend a lot of time in this data. Actually, I'm going to do this. I'm going to see if I can copy. Yes, I can copy this link address. Oh, no, I can't post comments. This is my first time using LinkedIn Live, so I need to figure out how to post the comments. Well, if you can't find this on your own, data.texas.gov/dataset mixed beverage. I will be happy to send you the link via email or post it in the show notes after this is over. But this is some remarkable data. Let me just go in there real quick and show you what it's like. And for that, I am going to make my screen a little larger. So I'm in the database right now, and I'm going to get rid of this filter. Everything you're seeing here, you can export. You just go up here and hit the export button. It's that simple. But let's take a quick look at what's in here. You have to kind of scroll all the way over to the right to see the tax data. So here's the actual name of the account and their address and city and zip code. But when you come over here, you'll begin to see the data that you want, which is wine receipts, spirits receipts, and beer receipts. And I can change the order of this. If I'm just sell wine and I want to see where the biggest wine accounts are. Now remember, this is only on premise, but this is actual sales. The taxes paid for this account, you can see how much larger the wine is than the spirits or beer. But if you want to see what account that is, you just merely scroll back over here and look for it to appear. It is AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, Jerry's World. So you can just export this and play around with the data. You can, once you get it into Excel, you can sort it for spirits, beer, and wine. You can even get total receipts. This would be fun. Let's see what it looks like when we do total receipts. So that's $7 million in taxes. What account is that? Let's just take a quick look. So Circuit of the Americas, and I guess that's a racetrack. Levy, I'm not really sure. Maybe somebody from Texas can put it in the comments of what that is. But my point is this is real data. And I wish every state had this data, but they don't. But that's okay, because it is still remarkable what you can do with this data. So let's take a look. I pulled out the top 5,000 accounts looking at spirits taxes only. I took the top 5,000 accounts from the database that you just saw. and I put it into a chart so I could analyze it. Turns out that 26% of the accounts are doing 80% of all spirits volume in those 5,000 accounts. So the 80-20 rule isn't always perfectly 20 and 80, but you can see this is absolutely close enough. And in the state of Texas, we can actually identify exactly which accounts those are. And one of the things you're going to find is that these accounts all have a few things in common. One is their tremendous volume because there's tremendous amount of people going there. You can just imagine AT&T Stadium in Arlington holds 100,000 people, 110,000 people. Even if only a third of them, or let's say 10% are drinking wine, that's still a massive amount of wine. So there's a perfect correlation between foot traffic and the volume of spirits, wine, and beer someone is selling. So by looking at the top 5,000 accounts, spirits only, we can see without a doubt that the 80-20 rule is real. Now, you'll get the same results if you look at the wine or the beer. If you want to look at the entire account base, you can. I think it's like 50, 60,000 accounts. There's no disputing that the 80-20 rule is real. If this looks even remotely exciting to you, or this is something you've never seen, I would love to hear in the comments that this, is getting you excited. Here's another thing from my old life as a national accounts guy, at my time at St. Michel Wine Estates and at Constellation Brands, my whole world was on-premise chains for 17 years, including my time at Glazier's. So this data comes from that, and it hasn't really changed much since. And if anything, it's become more concentrated. But at the last time I measured this, I looking at the top 300 on-premise chains in the U.S., the top 20 were doing half of all the business. Half. 20 out of 300 were doing half of all the business. The next 25 was another 22%, which means the top 45 chains out of 300 are doing 72% of all volume. The 80-20 rule chart looks just like this for every single product category, every single state, on-premise, off-premise, chain, independent, regardless of price tier, it always looks like this. So the 80-20 rule is absolutely real. You can take it to the bank. In this world, this universe of 300 chains, 21% of the chains do 80% of the volume. It's a universal rule. So hopefully I have convinced you of that. Now, when you really start to study the accounts that are in these groups like these, when you really get in here and you look at the accounts themselves, several things start to jump out. And it's here that we can leverage this data for any market in the U.S., any state in the U.S., and really everything around the world. Thank you, Troy, for verifying that it's still the same, and Troy would know. So these are indicators of volume for on-premise. Very, very fascinating. Again, probably won't be new to a lot of you, but for many people, this is new. They've never really stopped to think about it. Hotels have always been one of the largest volume on-premise account types known to man. And what's really fun is if you look for hotels that have two criteria, 1,000 guest rooms and 100,000 square foot of meeting space, you have just stumbled upon a miniature city capable of hundreds of cases a month of a single SKU. And this is just remarkable. But you can find these from your desk. You don't have to leave the office. You don't have to subscribe to anything. This is totally doable. We use a tool called CVent to look up how many hotel rooms and how many square foot of meeting space a venue has. And that will tell you have stumbled upon the mega hotels, and they make great targets. By the way, and Troy, I would love it if you weigh in on this too. The distributors, no knock against my friends at the distributors, but this is true. A lot of times distributors will when you're doing a work with and you're going by a ginormous hotel like the Gaylord or the Marriott Marquis, and they'll say, oh, we can't go in there. All those decisions are corporate. Well, many of the decisions are corporate, but on any given day, 50 to 60% of the volume that a hotel does is outside the corporate mandates. Corporate mandates only make up about 40 to 50% of all volume. The rest is outside, and the distributors know this. They absolutely know it. They just don't want you knowing it. So don't be scared off by the chain programs that are happening in the hotels. go to one of these large hotels, make friends with the purchasing people, the food and beverage people, the restaurant people. It'll take time, take a lot of time, but this huge opportunities. Aside from that, um, restaurants with outdoor seating do 3, 4, 5 times the volume of restaurants that don't have outdoor seating. Restaurants with private dining index a great deal higher than uh, restaurants that don't have private dining. So in a minute, I'm going to show you how to find restaurants with outdoor seating and private dining, and that is a really cool thing. Any kind of a water view will make the foot traffic skyrocket. Multiple locations. I just showed you that chart of all the chains in the country. So when I was at Constellation, we were focusing in on probably half of these chains. We were just mainly focusing on where all the business was being done. But the total number of on-premise chains in the US exceeds 2,000 chains. So there's plenty of chains that you can approach on a local or state level. Extended day parts. We're talking about brunch, happy hour, late night. Everybody knows about lunch and dinner for selling wine, beer, and spirits, but brunch, depending on the product you're selling, brunch can be huge. So can happy hour, and so can late night. So the opportunities for restaurants that have extended day parts is often very huge. Like if you're selling vodka or sparkling wine, you should know where all the best and highest volume brunch places are in every city that you sell, because those are enormous opportunities for Bloody Marys and sparkling wine. And of course, sports and entertainment venues. Now, these are by far the hardest accounts to get in. They do have very tight corporate sponsorships, but I've seen it done many times, many times over the last 38 years. Local people getting in there, making friends, and getting some nice volume to happen. So if you know what the indicators of volume are, and you know how to find the accounts that have these indicators, you're well on your way to putting together a killer key account target list. So at this point, people may be wondering, okay, that's great. What about off-premise? Well, let's take a look. We have, as of late, like in the last 5 years, and especially since the pandemic, more and more package stores are selling their wares on their own website. E-commerce sales on liquor store, package store websites, both chain and independent, has just absolutely skyrocketed. And you need to know which accounts in your markets are selling on e-commerce, selling off their website. And I'm going to show you today how to find them. Other indicators of heavy volume for an on-premise account where it's obvious that their mailing list, their email list, I should have said emails instead of mailing list. Their email list is front and center, because the key to selling lots of product in e-commerce is a massive email list. So they're always on the lookout for acquiring more email. And I'm going to show you this in a second too. Accounts that have a large active social media following, that's another good indicator of volume and foot traffic. Accounts that are doing wine and spirits direct deals, which Total Wine has perfected, but many other chains have followed. But even some major independents are doing this. So it's a great account type to target. And off-premise accounts that do lots of events, wine events, both on and off their properties, are great indicators of volume for on-premise. So by now you're wondering, okay, that's great, Ben. How do we find these accounts? Well, you are really in luck, because it costs you nothing to do what I'm about to show you. It's very, very exciting. There are a number of ways to go about this. You could do simple Google searches. I like to use Yelp, and I'm going to give a demonstration of Yelp today. I don't have time to go through all of these tools today, but I think after I show you what to do with Yelp, you will be hungry to go and try things with these other tools too. But TripAdvisor Eater is a great resource for identifying accounts, especially in the on-premise. Eater is a great way for identifying restaurants that have outdoor seating, private dining. And in fact, if I could only pick one of these, I would zero in on private dining. Such a massive amount of volume that can be done there. So let's do this. I'm going to pop out of my slideshow here, and we're going to pop into a Yelp screen. Let's take a look. If you're the least bit curious, or if this is the least bit fascinating, say something in the comments so I'll know that I'm not just wasting everyone's time. So Yelp, most of you have used Yelp. You're familiar with Yelp. I'm going to start with restaurants first, and I'm going to start with the city where I live, or where I'm nearest to, here in Northern Kentucky. You can change that to say any state. So right here from my desk, I could research the accounts in Madison, Wisconsin, or Ojai, California, or Burlington, Massachusetts. I can look at the restaurants in any city in America. The capabilities of Yelp has really, really accelerated over the last few years and just continues to get better and better. So let me show you a couple of things here. I'm hoping you can see my screen all right. So I've filtered for restaurants for Cincinnati. One of the first things I want to do is change the way the results are returned to me. The default is recommended. The problem with recommended and highest rated is they're very subjective. I'm not interested in subjective data. I'm interested in empirical data. So I'm going to change it to show me the most reviewed restaurants in the Cincinnati area. That is a meaningful and objective data, and you'll watch that these change. Now, the first thing you want to do is skip past the sponsored results. And by the way, Eric asked, will this presentation be available for download? Even better, it's being recorded as we speak, so you'll have access to the recording. And if you want the slides that I used, just send me an email, ben@salisburycreative.com. I'll be happy to share the slides with you. But you'll have a recording of this webinar. So go past the sponsored results, completely useless for what we want, and go to the actual organic results. So in this particular case, in the restaurants in Cincinnati, sorted for most reviewed, there is a perfect correlation between the number of times an account has been reviewed and how much volume that account is doing. A typical restaurant gets 200 to 300 reviews on Yelp. So getting 2,000 reviews tells us something really important. So we're going to look at these first few accounts. All you do is click right here, and Yelp will happily queue up the web address right here for you. So let's go take a look. And now, as soon as we get inside the website, we notice a couple of things. One is they've got multiple locations. I'm trying to look for clues as to why this is such a high volume place. The fact that they have multiple locations is really, really a great indicator. So what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 locations. No national account team would ever bother with a 6-store chain, which means that you have a great opportunity at the local level to get into this chain and do some serious volume. What I don't see up here that I always look for is private dining or, oh, here we go, events and catering. That probably has a lot to do with why this account does so much volume. You can get more details on their catering venues here. So this account, if I was putting together a key account targeting list for the Cincinnati area for on-premise, this account would go on that list for sure. Let's go back and look at a few more. And one of the things you'll learn when you do this search is breakfast and brunch places are just hot as can be. There is so much business, but not a lot of business in terms of spirits, beer, and wine. So for today, I'm going to skip over breakfast and brunch places and look for something else. Now, here's a Mexican place, which is going to index high for beer and tequila, of course. But depending on the level of sophistication of their menu and their clientele, perhaps they have a wine list or a really nice artisanal cocktail menu. So let's go look. Let's go look at their website. Private events. See, I'm telling you, the restaurants that are returned in the top of the search when you put it in descending order of most reviewed, they almost always have outdoor seating, private dining, or both, which makes them go on the target account list. Let's see if we can get to some menus. Here we go. Here's a beverage menu. So just as we suspected, margaritas, cocktails. I do see a little bit of wine. Here's a rosé. Here is some. Look, I mean, this is the world we live in. You can tell exactly what they're pouring by the glass and by the bottle. So while the selection is not large, you can bet that these 4 white wines are doing some serious volume at this place. There's only 4. If you like white wine, you get a choice of 4 wines. You get a choice of even fewer choice of reds. So all of these are indicators of tremendous volume. Is this making sense? It's really fun. Now you might say, well, who has time to do this? Well, let me answer that question by asking a question. Have you ever scheduled a work with a distributor and got in the car? First of all, they're never on time, right? They're always 20, 30 minutes late because they don't want to do it, right? Nobody wants to do it. Have you ever worked for a distributor, or you're a distributor on this call? You don't have to identify yourself, but work with are pain in the ass. And you ride around to accounts, and maybe you'll see 4 or 5 accounts that day. 6 accounts would be a huge day. Maybe you sell 5, 10 cases or whatever. Well, that's a pretty time-consuming day. In 1 hour, I could create a kick-ass on-premise target account list, not moving from my desk. 1 hour. That's all it would take me doing what I'm showing you today. This is time well spent. So I just keep going. I just keep looking at every one of these. I want to go to their website. How many locations do they have? Do they have outdoor seating? Do they have private dining? What makes them so busy and popular? Number of reviews is direct correlation to how busy they are. And busy accounts are high volume accounts. Troy has got to run. Thank you, Troy. Great seeing you. We'll have to connect sometime. I'm so horrible about keeping up with my old colleagues, even my friends. My family would be the first to complain. I don't keep up with them enough, but I'm glad. It was great to see my old friend. So let's talk about off-premise for a minute. If you have questions, please fire them in the comments. I can see the comments. I just can't respond to your comments I can't write your comments back, but I can reply live here. Let's go look at off-premise. So the way to do this in Yelp is you type beer. When you start typing beer, you'll see the default as beer, wine, and spirits. We'll just stick with Cincinnati since we're already here. But again, you can change that to any city in the whole country. It doesn't have to be near you. You can go ahead and do it. So again, skip past the sponsor results. We want to change this. Oh, I forgot to show you something really cool. Let me go back to restaurants for a second. Sorry about that. One of the perils of doing a live event. I'm going to sort this to most reviewed. Over here, you've got some features, and these are always being updated. I want to check 2 boxes here on this feature menu, and let me go back and show you where I got it. I'm over here on the left side of the menu under features. I'm going to click See All, which opens up the whole menu. I'm going to click Outdoor Seating and Good for Groups because I'm looking for volume here. That's what I want. If I wanted to look for beer and wine only, I could do that. There's Good for Happy Hour. This is a pretty cool feature. So I'm just going to check those 2. Now my search results will be further refined by whether or not they are good for groups and have outdoor seating. And so that's another indicator of volume. So that is a really cool feature. Play around with these other features like neighborhoods, etc. It's really cool. All right, let's go back to beer, wine, and spirits. So you go to beer, wine, and spirits, do the search, change it from highly recommended to most reviewed. Skip past the sponsored results, those poor suckers who wasted their money sponsoring on Yelp. Boom. And if anyone who's ever been to this part of the world, Northern Kentucky, we're right on the river. That's my office right there, right on the river. Down the street is the Party Source, said to be the country's largest independent liquor store. If you've ever been in there, it's kind of hard to argue. Look, it's showing me all the results on the map, but this is a massive store. Now, you'll see that people don't often leave reviews for package stores, but even still, you're going to get that correlation between the number of reviews versus other accounts. But I can go and I can look at these individually. Let's go check out the website for the Party Source and see what we can learn as we're trying to determine whether this should go on our target list or not. And by the way, I'm going to try to keep this to 30, 35 minutes tops. If you have to go, the recording will be available later. If you have questions, just start popping them in there now. So one of the first things I notice is the shopping cart. When I see that shopping cart, I know they're selling stuff online. So they're getting all that foot traffic in their ginormous store. Plus they're getting a ton of traffic, e-commerce. This is a very important account. They've got a nice search feature here. Let's see what else we can find. They've got a cocktail club. One of the things I don't see that they ought to be doing better. Well, here's a join our email list button, but I would love to see that above the fold in a more prominent place. But it definitely is something to consider. And I'm looking for an indicator of this account doing Spirits Direct and Wine Direct. And they absolutely do. Here's one way to find out. Go to bestsellers, and they're almost always going to be among the other listings. They're going to list some of their Spirits Direct. They're private, not really private label, but it's Spirits Direct, Wine Direct. It's not listed as prominently here as it is on some accounts. There, if they have a Spirits Direct or Wine Direct program, it will show front and center. Let's go back here. Let's look at one more example. I'm hitting the back button here. Party Source, Rind, Oakley Wines, Kroger, Ludlow. Let's go to the one that was on the list next, Oakley Wines. We'll go visit their website. This little pick and shovel work of doing your research online is absolutely huge. They have gift cards, wine club, private event booking. You can order stuff and pick it up locally. They do have a shopping cart, you can see. Do they have an email list? Let's see how large their social media following is, just for grins. So they've got 6,300 Instagram followers. I'm going to go ahead and follow them. Let's take a look at their Facebook following. So 6,300 and about the same on Facebook. So those are indicators of volume. Oakley Wines looks like the kind of account that you should want to target. So there you have it. That's how you know, how you can find out where the volume is being done, both on-premise and off-premise. This is really just a thumbnail sketch of how to do it. I hope that this has been useful. If you think it was useful, say so in the comments, give a thumbs up. But I also would love to shut up and answer any and all questions that you have.